The next week followed the same routine. We traveled all day and then bunkered down at the campsite surrounded by trees for the night. Nothing much had happened. The roads had been steady, and I found myself making a small habit of small talk between all of my guards. Like now, stepping out of the carriage, the familiar redhead helps me down, hand in hand before closing the door behind me. "Thank you, soldier," I address, smiling happily at the crimson-eyed man, and he glances down at my words, catching my gaze and averting his eyes with a light hint of color resting across his cheeks. "My lady," he clears his throat, lending me off the path and a few bunches of trees far away from the ones we had campsited in last night. "Okay, I know I probably shouldn't ask, but..." He trails off, a smile falling onto his features as a rosy tint dismisses. "Are you sure it's okay for you to be thanking me so much?" he questions, blinking down at me while my brows furrow in confusion. "What do you mean?" "I'm just saying. I've seen nobles, and not once have I ever heard them say thank you," he points out, curiously looking towards me for any reaction while I just nodded in agreement. He isn't wrong. The basic etiquette classes we go through when young tell us that people like him are lower than us. Therefore, there is no point in ever soiling our image by thanking them. But seeing the stuff they have to go through, that disgusting soup for starters, has given me a small insight on people like him. So saying 2 simple words is the least I can do. As the only noble here, and being higher than all of you, who would go against my wishes to simply thank my guard for helping me when he doesn't have to? I answer, returning to the noblewoman position I had drilled into me since I was a child. He nods, suddenly pausing and nearly tripping over a tree root. "Wait, what do you mean I don't have to?" he asks, quickly regaining his footing to keep up with my pace. The chuckle that leaves my lips is quiet, my eyes sending a glance his way. "You know, you are breaking protocol." "Whenever you help me out of my carriage, right?" My statement takes a moment to sink in, and after a second, his face slowly shifts into a genuine shock and confusion. "So you didn't know?" I finished off when he didn't answer, and our little walk slowed down, looking into the campsite beyond the bushes, rimming it and separating the others from us. "But we were assigned you to guard and protect me," I recalled, trying not to laugh at his complete bewildered face. "Helping me out of my carriage is a servant's job, soldier," I emphasized. "I am so sorry." He groans, face completely flushed with embarrassment as he revealed finally clicked in his head. "The other 2 I work with told me I should help you out." He immediately rants and covers his mouth in further stifling my laughter. "I never needed help," I managed to reveal. In truth, the servant that was supposed to be sent with me didn't come because I persisted my father to let me go alone, not wanting to take his staff because that would be just an extra mouth to feed. It worked. The soldiers run his hands over his flustered face, head suddenly peeking up with another thought. "Wait, what else have I been doing that I don't need to do?" he mutters, staring at me and waiting for me to finally spill about all of the odd things he had been doing that would normally be considered out of line. And though I thought he was doing it just to be nice, turns out he was just severely inexperienced in being around nobles and was only chosen to be my guard because of his sheer skill in fighting and quirk on the battlefield. "Come on, I want to love more in my tent," I mocked, watching his embarrassment with amusement in my gaze as I turned and started the direction of the bustling camp. "If you're going to laugh, don't tell me," he complains, his hands rubbing the color across his cheeks, while my hand brushes back some of the bushes so I could pass through. Once I make it through, he follows, my finger coming up to wipe at the small tear that had pricked the corner of my eyes from earlier. "If it makes you any better, I appreciate the help," I comment, seeing his glance towards me from the corner of his eye. That's why I say thank you. Then you're welcome, my lady, he replies after a second, glancing away when a few soldiers pass by, and our silence is quickly stripped from us as one of the other guards runs up to us. Lady Yin. He stops in front of me, causing me to stop as well as he bows. I'm going to butcher the name. There's a Kukumi lake not too far from the camp, he informs, easily piquing my attention. Thank you. I'll call for you later. I dismiss, and the blonde backs off, quickly leaving with my dismissal to probably go and help out with setting the rest of the camp up. So the redhead and I continue forward, making our way to the tent, standing and perfectly set up like it is all the times before. The crimson-eyed soldier beside me moves forward, pulling back the double curtains that acted as some sort of door to the tent. And with a millionth thank you this week, I step past him, only turning to poke my head out and speak again. His hand continues to hold the curtain up, while he turns to look down at me. Since you're pretty much my servant, go and get me a soap and towel. It's located somewhere in the back of my carriage. I teasingly commanded, and his smile falls into a deadpan. As you wish, my lady, he grins, a tick mark appearing on the temple of his head as he smiled, showcasing the shark-like pearly whites, and dropping the curtain on my face. My head recoiled back and with a look of shock in my expression, but it quickly spiraled into laughter as I turned and started to walk away from the entrance. Time skip. By the time the soldier had returned, the sky had already started to dim, coloring the horizon like splash paint, using purple and oranges that twisted, but didn't dare mix with the sun still present. Hearing the familiar call from one of my soldiers, the black-haired one, I deemed by the sound of it, returned as well. I make my way over towards the entrance of my tent, shifting to hold a new nightgown folded in my grasp. I reach out with my now free arm, brushing up against one of the flaps originally cut off the entrance of my domain from any wondering eyes. My head peeks out to see the three waiting stiffly. You have my essentials? I turned, directing my attention towards the crimson-eyed soldier who nods. Yes, my lady, he answers with a slight lift of his hand to show. Thank you. Now let's go. I command lightly, stepping out of my tent where the flaps flopped back into its place. The three didn't say much after that, the blonde moving in front of me to lead the way while the other two stayed by my side, yet a few steps behind. And soon enough, the light of the campsite torches slowly dimmed as we passed more and more trees, while the man in front of me continues forward like a scout. He makes small comments like, watch out for tree root there, or be careful, it's a little uneven around here, but continues on, leaving no issues for me, until a large fallen tree seems to appear up ahead, and he continues to stop. As I approach, though, the light left over from the sky above, I am able to make out his hand on the wood, feeling it. Then he taps on it a bit, barely any sound reverberating back to meet our eyes. It's not hollow. We need to go over it. He finally speaks, glancing over his shoulder to speak with the other soldier. Why can't I just smash it, though? The soldier to the left pipes in, and I can see the blonde shake his head. You can't. That'd be too dangerous. What if some splinters hit Lady Yin? You guys will be there to shield her. Come on, man. We don't have quirks like you. And now they are bickering. The black-haired one had just now started to pipe in, creating a three-way argument between all of my guards and causing me to facepalm. I don't know. I didn't see how inexperienced they were all before. And seeing how they are still arguing in the sky wasn't even lit anymore, I sighed, reaching my free hand out and slapping it on the wood. Once all 5 fingers grazed and pressed at the rough object, I blinked, looking over everything before something happens that causes my cheeks to heat, and I quickly back off. Hey, why would we make her take extra steps back? That's just more steps for her. Is there a certain amount of steps nobles can take? Probably. I grumbled, bending down and grabbing a twig, and tossing out a 3. I didn't know who it hit, but it let out a stifle. What the? before they finally all go silent. Come on, I called, soon seeing and hearing their footsteps as they all come and stand in front of me again. Lady Lian, this thing is jumpable, I stated, pointing behind me to the large piece of oak. Here, give me that, I demanded, grabbing my shower items from the redhead soldier's grasp. Setting the stuff to sit on the folded gown, I nodded my head towards the other two. You can find your own way over. Just make it quick, I dismiss, and sending a glance towards the confused crimson-eyed one. Carry me, I commanded. The two send each other confused looks as the soldier beside me hesitantly leans down, scooping my legs and my dress skirt out from underneath me to lift me up and off the ground effortlessly. It doesn't take long for him to step back, sprint forward, leaping into the air and kicking off the tree, landing and skidding to a stop on the other side. That's when I remember. Oh, and don't go around the sides. There are... A shout of pain comes from my right, and I wince. Thorn bushes. My voice finishes slowly, and once the other two make it over, or, in the blonde's case, around, and through the thorn bushes, we are back on track. Of course, I was walking again with the same formalities as before.